Today I want to talk about the most depressing time of my entire life, when I was finally enlightened into the true nature of the religion that I believed would get me to the finish line, that was putting me in a position to live the best life ever and to have my eternal future all taken care of and buttoned up. And when I realized that that was all a lie, and I could see with my own eyeballs clear and demonstrable evidence of them lying, deflecting, and misleading people that were my friends and family and acquaintances, everyone that was in my sphere was affected by this. And when I would try and tell them something, and they just refused to listen, they just wouldn't choose to look at evidence and wake up so they could live a full and real life and not just be caught in this wave of fantasy. And the reason I want to talk about this today is because those feelings that I had at that time are pretty much the exact same way I'm feeling now, 10 years later. Because right now, the exact same thing is happening on a bigger scale. So let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and today this is going to be a bit of a rant. Podcast style Wally is in full effect, and I don't have this outlined, I don't have this scripted, it's just my disparate ideas and me trying to stitch them together to say something that is hopefully useful to somebody out there. So let's jump into that. And first off, I just need to really describe what it's like in your conviction and how far people are willing to go for their beliefs in their people, their I don't want to say party, but it's kind of like that political party, their religion, the Jehovah's Witnesses. So when I was a full believing Jehovah's Witness, there is quite literally nothing that I would not have done for upholding that belief system. I would have defended them to my own demise. If I was brought before, there's all these little fanfic almost that happens when it comes to this great tribulation that will happen. The Jehovah's Witnesses believe that all of the political elements of the entire world are all going to attack them, and there's going to be this pandemonium, and you are going to be thrown in jail and tortured and bamboo skewers shoved up your fingernails to give up all your other brothers and sisters, and you need to be ready to endure. And I was ready. I was ready to defend my faith, even if it cost me my life. Even farther, there are Jehovah's Witness parents who will refuse to allow their child to get a blood transfusion. They would sooner let a child die than break a rule that was given to them by their leadership. That's how devout, that's how cult-like the mindset is. Nothing. It's like an impenetrable force. Mine just happened to be penetrated. That sounds pretty weird now, but we're just going to keep on going. So one of the things that really shook me to my core was this, feeling that I had that there's nothing I wouldn't do. If I got thrown in jail forever, I would do my time because that's what God wanted. And one of the biggest stories this is back in 2015, 2016, when I was waking up, surrounding the Jehovah's Witnesses at the time, were multiple court cases in America and then the Australian Royal Commission in Australia. And these had to do with how the organization was essentially protecting themselves by not exposing the full extent of their problem with They refused at every single turn, and I was just consuming anything I could find. Nothing from apostates, but just news articles about the Jehovah's Witness as this is going on. And just like at every single turn, there was a adamant refusal. Zero cooperation, just nothing. They would not budge an inch. And, as I was waking up and everything, and I realized the whole thing is just a mess, and a big desire that you have when you first, the light bulb goes off and you're like, whoa, I figured out that my religion isn't true. I must be the smartest person. I gotta tell other people. And, for me, it was pretty strategic because my wife at the time, my main focus was on how do I get her out of this mess, because we were pretty recently married and this, that, and the third. So that was like my main focus. But after her, I made a list of people that I thought, okay, before I leave, I'm going to make sure to talk about, these findings with them before I'm on the way out. And something that I thought would be universally accepted. There's no real interpretation behind it. It's not like, well, there's two ways that you can see this. In my head, I thought, okay, Jehovah's Witnesses, they thrive in binary thinking places. If they can just see things as black and white, right or left, that's where they thrive. So I'm like, okay, what is the most binary thinking topic that you could ever bring up to another human being, ostensibly? Like, really? And that was, you have to protect children. They're innocent. They have a full life ahead of them, and whatever damage happens to them now will affect them for the rest of their life. So you are taking not just something from them now, but you are taking that innocence, that happiness, that joy, that mental health, away from them. Anyone that's not sick in the head would agree that you have to protect children in any civilized space that you're in. So I thought it would be a no-brainer to talk about this very public. There's no apostate. This isn't lies. This isn't misinterpretations. This isn't anything. You can find this out for yourself. You get $100. You can buy some court records and read the dang things till the cows come home. You can do this. So I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And and I'm not being hyperbolic, every single person on that list that I talked to didn't care. Nothing. I remember standing in downtown Seattle doing my little cart witnessing shift, and there was a person, I drop a little things here and there. He's my buddy. And I brought this up one time. It's like, hey, I always saw these news articles and things, and they were actually pretty disturbing. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, it's at least worth checking out. The next week, hey, did you get a chance to look at that? No, I just didn't want to see any apostate stuff, and those people are probably just being negative against the organization. Go to one of your good friends. Well, man, at least we're not the Catholics, am I right? Okay, fuck that guy. You go to another person. Oh, man, well, it is unfortunate that happens, and there's bad apples everywhere you go. But at least here's the good things that the organization does. And we should really just focus on those good things that they do. Okay, fuck that person too. But what really hit me harder than anything else, and I know I've told this story before, but was when I was talking with my dad. And I had mentioned to him about the Australian Royal Commission, and I asked him, please just look at it. Just look at something. Download the transcripts for free. Read it. You don't have to go on. You don't have to expose yourself to any. You can be fully insulated from apostate material. This is something that you can just find. And then, I met at their house a couple days later, and brought this up. Like, well, did you look at anything? No. So, just let me just try and get in your head here. I want to understand. So there are potentially thousands of children that are having the worst things that can possibly happen to a child done to them. And there's an institution that knows about it, that isn't doing what they can, reasonably, what they should be doing in order to protect them. And on top of that, it's not just that, but they're actively, not passively, actively trying to bury it. And this guy looked me in my eyeballs and said, I don't care. Really? You don't care? This is an elder. Been an elder for 15 years, 20 years. I don't care. It's like, but that's easy to say. What if it was one of your grandkids? Would you care then? Silence. It's somebody's grandkids? I don't care. I'm not going to look at it. And that whole series of events, of going to some of my closest friends, my family, and trying to talk about something that I thought every person that is sane and not sick in the head would agree on. Protecting kids equals good. They didn't care. They just didn't give a rat's ass about it. And that has got to be one of the darkest times in my whole life. Like, if you want to lose your faith in humanity, if you want to lose your ability to perceive people as generally good, that is a speed run strategy from God himself on how to just not give two brain cells about what other people think, because I could not grasp how all of these people, not just a few, all of these people don't care. And it drove me crazy. It literally does drive you crazy. And if you're someone that has left the Jehovah's Witnesses and this sounds familiar, and I'm guessing there are a few thousand people watching this shaking their head because it sounds familiar, and that deadpan stare is just the most frustrating thing. Why don't you just care about kids? Why don't you want to protect them? Everything else you can do, everything else, I don't care. You can be a Jehovah's Witness for your whole life, but please, at the bare minimum, can you at least look into this one thing? And when you get shut down again and again and again, and then you go on jw.org and you hear the leaders who are intimately familiar with this problem, and you hear them say, those are just apostate lies. Protecting children, we're better than other people. Or, hey, let's really focus on the good things that the organization has done. Look at this happy clappy story where we set up a booth where there was a marathon and we handed out lemonade and tracts. No one is reading your little pamphlets in this is the modern world, but no one cares that you're handing out pamphlets. It's no one, and I mean no one, is coming into your religion because of that. Why are you trying to distract from this monumental problem by trying to point to this artificially good thing that you've decided is a good thing, so therefore we shouldn't care about the bad thing? And you just hear it over and over again. And it's like the governing body at that time, they seemed obsessed with it themselves. You go back and listen to those old talks. They're always talking about apostates and always talking about misinformation and always talking about these negative news stories that might come out, but they're just spreading lies about us. Anyway, I'm getting lost in the sauce here, so I'll rein it in. But all right, so let's fast forward things here, and what am I on about today? Currently, right now, I think a lot of people are feeling exactly what I felt 10 years ago when you almost seem to be surrounded by this mass delusion, this mass amnesia, this refusal, stubborn refusal to acknowledge that there is a massive cover-up going on actively, and your leaders are lying to you. And you try and talk about it, and you get nowhere. Today, I went to the gym for the first time in about a little over a month. I've been a little bit hobbled, and there's an older guy. He likes cars. I like cars. We always chop it up for a little bit. He's got actually one of my favorite cars ever, 2016 Aston Martin Vanquish. He has it in the wrong color, but anyway. And he was just asking me about, why I was in a walking boot and all hobbled, why he hadn't seen me, and so I was just, telling him about that. And then, I just had kind of mentioned, like, I was just keeping my mind, busy with everything and all the chaos that was happening in the world. And I'm like, yeah, we got the Olympics, so that's kind of interesting. And, the Epstein debacle from the government, from, Perjury Patel and Pam Blockhead. And my God, for the first time in a long time, I saw something very familiar. We never talked politics before. He physically moved away from me like this. And I was like, uh-oh. And he said, I'm just so tired of hearing about it. And I didn't want to be confrontational. I didn't want to have like a crash out, trying to have a decent gym sesh here for not going for a long time. And so I just said, I hear you. I really wish they would just put the dang pedophiles, in jail. Investigate everyone, see what you come up with, and get rid of them. And he just kind of nodded along, because who wouldn't nod along to that pretty sensible take? But it just reminded me that the reason that the governing body or political leaders will lie to your face is because it works. And that is that frustration that is almost unbearable. It makes you feel like you are crazy, because you just get this reaction of, Epstein, I'm so tired of hearing about that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how could you be tired when no one has actually been brought to justice? The largest sex trafficking ring for wealthy, powerful people that extends beyond America's borders is global and has been happening for decades. And no one is being held accountable, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of victims that are sitting there watching this unfold, and your reaction is, I'm so tired of hearing about this. No, I don't think any reasonable, sensible person comes to that conclusion on their own, but there's like a cult-like mindset where you've been told to stop caring about it. You've been told that this thing that most rational people on any given Tuesday would give a lot of damns about, they've been told not to. And so they don't. So you can watch these people lie and say there's no credible evidence. Hey, bring your claims. If you'd like to bring a claim, we would really like to hear it. And then you have people like, I've been trying to get you to investigate this guy for 12 years. I've called you. Here, I'll give you the call logs. This is how many times I've called the FBI. Diddly squat, nothing. Just reports made sitting on people's desks. And please don't delude yourself into thinking that this has anything to do with politics, because it doesn't. This is gone through multiple administrations on both sides of the political party. People get mad at me when I say this, but it's just how I feel. So I guess it is what it is. But I don't subscribe to any political parties because I think the whole dang thing is so disgustingly corrupt and has been for so long. I just don't see any, like, we can talk about individual issues and we can discuss that, but as far as the politics goes, it's so evil. And it's a system, a political system created to divide people. It's built into the psychology of it. Keep them divided, keep them angry and attacking each other. And they won't notice that the real problem is class. And when you do that and people are all arguing over, well, you got half the country yelling at this half and this half of the country yelling at that, they don't realize that the system only benefits 3.5% of people. Really? I mean, maybe we can be a little bit more generous. It's probably something like 7% of people. But that's the only people that benefit from it. And it will continue to rob you. It'll rob your children. It'll rob your future. And you'll have Pam Bondi with survivors of Jeffrey Epstein sitting in the room with her talking about the Dow being over 50,000. Hey, guys, why are we talking about Jeffrey Epstein? People's 401ks and pensions are through the roof. Woo, yeah. What? Huh? Is this what it's come down to? The answer is yes. So no, this isn't political. This has nothing to do with politics. This has everything to do with a system that benefits a very few people and is lying and stealing from you. If you would like to participate in that, more power to you. We need some trailblazers out there to activists out there to make change. But the way I've seen it for most of my adult life is that you have to tear the system down completely and rebuild something better that works in the modern era. As long as there's geriatric, delusional, evil pedophiles running the show, I guess I'm going to make sure I take care of myself. I don't know. Anyway, that was a weird rant. But no, this isn't like a political problem. This is a systemic problem. And it reminds me of, like, again, back to those days when trying to talk about this with my friends and family. And they just throw labels around. Oh, you're an apostate. It was just apostate lies. Why are we trying to make this about apostates versus believers when it's not? Both sides should agree that the thing that needs to change is the system that protects the pedophiles. That has nothing to do with apostates and believers, bucko. It doesn't. It has everything to do with protecting people. And so when I look out in the world and I see all of this chaos unfolding and lies being told, and you see people, not just online, sometimes I think we have this ability to think, well, that's just like online people being angry, or, no one would actually think that in the real world. Well, boy, howdy, hey, let me tell you, when I went to the gym today, someone that I've spoken to many times and thought was a reasonable, sensible person, doesn't mean I'm not ever going to talk to him again, but just say, why are we still talking about this? Maybe because it matters. Maybe because it's important. So I guess for me, and what eventually helped me previously to get out of that, this is really, 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 really sad. But just coming to understand that there's very, very little I can do to change anyone's mind. eventually I came back to it and wanted to talk about the problems of being a witness later on. So I took like a little hiatus after this moment of just being so depressed from trying to like talk to people that were witnesses. I was like, okay. And I didn't think about anything witness related. I just didn't think about ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. None of that. I just like, okay, let me focus on myself. And to a certain extent, I guess that was healing. And when you've regathered yourself and you're ready to like, okay, now I have a foundation to build on, to stand on. Now I can talk about this. And, talking about this through YouTube has been very healing. And how much good, how much change comes from it, I don't think that that's going to be something that's very measurable, but I do generally think that the more people are talking about it, the more exposure things get. That's always going to be a net positive, because usually with anything that you say, if it gets any amount of attention, you might hope to draw one person. One person might see that, oh, well, that actually makes sense. Let me look into that a little bit further. And that is unfortunately what we all know to be how the world works. One of the things that we all know but choose to forget over and over again is that the hallmark of planet Earth is small change over time. You don't see, oh, well, there's a monkey and then boom, that just pooped out a baby, a human baby. It doesn't happen. It's small, almost imperceptible changes over time. We all look forward to the downfall of Watchtower and it's all over. Yeah, we get how YouTube thumbnails work. But we want that, and yet somewhere deep inside of us, we intuitively know that it's small, almost imperceptible changes over time. You start working out today, and you almost won't notice anything. But then somewhere along the lines, one of your friends will be like, man, you're looking really good. And it's like, oh. Then you look at old pictures and compare them of yourself, like, wow, I can't believe how far I've come. And that's just... I hate to be the bearer of bad news here. I wish I could just tell you, hey, do this meditation and you'll be better. Hey, buy my course and you'll be better. Hey, do this, which I can profit off of, and it'll be better. It's not how things work. It's small, tiny little changes that happen over time. And the reason that those changes happen are that people care and they keep fighting and talking about it. So I know that my YouTube channel here will do very, very little, real world impact. But if it can just be part of that imperceptible change over time, then I will be proud of it, because that's honestly probably the best that I can do. So anyway, just some thoughts, stuff going through my head. Sorry, it's been a while. But every so often we got to regather to fight the good fight and whatnot. And when your physical health is letting you down, then, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. So anyway, that is the rant. I probably said half of the things I wanted to say. Half of the things I said, I probably didn't say it correctly. And the other half, I probably didn't even mean to say it, because I just start babbling. But hopefully you can appreciate the heart, the honesty, and the passion behind this. Listen to people, try and understand where they're coming from to the best of your ability. And if things are right, then you should be able to show that to people. And hopefully someone will listen to you. And change starts maybe one conversation at a time. Anyway, with all that being said, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to spend more time loving the things you love than hating the things you hate. And try your best to have a good ass day. Catch you guys.